recording.
Every leader faces defining moments, times when they either hit a wall or break through it. Some see obstacles and they stop, while others push forward. But the best leaders, well, they recognize these moments for what they really are, opportunities for transformation. The difference isn't luck or experience. It's having the right framework to pause, process, and pivot. That's exactly what the Kairos circle is designed to help us do. I'm Eric Pfeiffer, and in this episode, I'm joined by Don Neldon. We're going to show you how to stop just surviving challenges and to start using them for growth.
Yes. So I think everybody listening can agree that leadership is really hard. And I think with the number of leaders that you and I have worked with, Eric, one of the things that makes it so difficult is simply the number of challenges and decisions that you're faced with in a day and the variety, right? You're dealing with everything from supply chain issues to employee gossip. It all within one day. And so how do you as a leader make good decisions, navigate those challenges well? That's enough. But then for us to say, oh, wait, we can actually teach you how to use those opportunities to transform your leadership. That's what we want to dig into in this episode.
That's right. And I just want to recall for our listeners, if they haven't listened to an earlier session that we did on how we as leaders every day are getting triggered by these different challenges. And we have these two default of either the victim or villain mindset. This tool, the Kairos circle, directly addresses those temptations and gives us a simple pathway to practice personal responsibility and to leverage our best version of ourselves, our intelligence, right, our composure, to be able to navigate these different decisions to give us the best outcomes that we can discover.
Yeah. And I think that we tend to see, just like people tend to respond to triggers in one of two default ways, leaders tend to respond to challenges and decision-making in one of two default ways. One of them is like the quick fixer. They just want to bulldoze through the problem and get to the quickest solution that they can to kind of move on. The second one is like the hesitator or the avoider. They don't want the hard feedback. They don't want to have the hard conversations. They don't want to dig into the difficult decision-making. And the problem with either of those stances is that without an intentional approach, leaders are bound to repeat the same mistakes over and over again, for one. But two, they miss seeing these challenges as an actual opportunity to improve, to grow, to transform.
That's right. And I would say that is one of the greatest advantages to learning this tool, this process, is because it gets us out of the mindset of simply surviving, and it gets us into the mindset of reframing every challenge as an incredible opportunity. And once we see that alternative opportunity, I think it opens up the creative brainstorming. It opens up creative solutions. It opens up a world that we didn't before see, because out of fear and insecurity, we basically move toward self-preservation. We make decisions that are normally focused on fear and protection rather than, hey, what could a better future look like?
Yeah. And so many leaders get stuck in that mindset of, I just have to figure this out. I have to figure this out. And we're going to walk you through an actual process of how you can figure it out, but do it well. So Eric, will you lead us into the Kairos circle? I love this tool.
Well, I often say to people that if there was only one tool, now, mind you, I'm grateful that I don't have to only choose one tool, but if there was only one tool that I as a leader could use or coach other leaders in, it would be this tool. And because it integrates so many of the different principles and practices that we explore in our other tools, it gives us a simple way to identify the challenges that are in front of us, teaches us how to, like we said earlier, to pause, to process the situation effectively, to regain our mental emotional sobriety, and to pivot, to actually transform our trajectory. So Imagine as we're going through our days, we have these various experiences that are disrupting us. In a previous session, we referred to them as triggers.
Right.
The Greeks also have a word for trigger. It's called Kairos. And the word Kairos literally means time, but not just the kind of time that we're used to, like stopwatch time, calendar time. That's sequential or linear time, which in the Greek language is referred to as chronos. And we know that word because that's where we get chronological time from. But the Greeks understood that in the midst of our chronological timeline, every day, week, month, year, our lifespan, we are going to have significant moments in time that really grab our attention, that are worth processing, that are worth learning from. The Greek culture is very philosophical. They put a high priority on the discipline of learning from life experiences, which for many of us in our kind of, especially North American culture, we learned how to learn in the classroom, right? It's information acquisition and regurgitation. Many of us didn't take classes on how to identify our life experiences and how to excavate the wisdom, insights, and learning from those experiences. And that's exactly what the Kairos circle helps us do. The word Kairos means a significant moment in time. In other words, a moment that is impacting us mentally, emotionally, or even physically. That's an indicator that it's worth us slowing down and engaging in this experience. Now, we've created this Kairos circle, which is literally what it sounds like. It is a circle, and if you split that circle in half down the middle, you get two halves of the circle. The first half is all about what we've already talked about when we talked about emotional intelligence, learning to develop our awareness of ourselves and the environment around us. The second half of the circle is all about how we're going to respond to those moments. So now let's break down the first half in 3 simple steps that begin the process of excavating wisdom or insights from our Kairos moments. We have a Kairos moment. What's the first thing we do? We pause. We recognize I'm having a Kairos moment. As a matter of fact, this becomes common language with all of our clients in their environments where people say, I'm having a Kairos moment. It doesn't matter if it's big, small, positive, or negative. Every experience that in any way disrupts us is just another Kairos moment. The first step, once we identify our Kairos moment, is to simply observe what is going on. And this is where we train leaders to simply ask, what are the facts and what are the prevailing feelings that we're experiencing in this Kairos moment? Now, I tell people feelings feel subjective because they are our interpretation of an experience.
That's right.
But I want us to learn how to handle them as simply facts. We cannot always control our emotions, but if we don't own our emotions, they will own us. And so part of observing our Kairos experience is simply recognizing what actually is happening and what are the prevailing emotions that are coming up because of it. And that's really important at this step to recognize that we have blind spots. And sometimes we don't see all the facts. And so inviting other people to help us observe can be really, really beneficial. Once we've observed the facts and feelings, we can move on to the second step, which is interpretation. Why is this impacting me? Why is this such a big deal? What do I make of this situation? How do I understand or interpret this Kairos experience? Now, it's really important here because as human beings, our brains hate understanding gaps. In other words, if we don't understand an experience, we don't know how to make sense of it, our brains move at like lightning speed to try and make sense of that experience. And oftentimes we draw inappropriate conclusions. So it's really important for us to test our interpretations by inviting other people. I often do this with my wife. After a long day at work, I'll process a Kairos with her. And then as I'm interpreting that situation, I'll say, hey, does my interpretation sound appropriate given the facts that I've shared with you? And sometimes she'll say, yes, that sounds great. Sometimes she'll say, hey, you know what? Maybe you're overreacting. Maybe you're misunderstanding that other party. Maybe you've been in a bad mood all day, and that's why you're kind of interpreting everything negatively. Either way, observe, then interpret. Once we've done that, we can move to the third step, which is discover. What am I learning? What are my takeaways from this Kairos experience? That's really, really important, because too often we want to jump straight, like you said, to just reacting and to being a quick fixer. Or we can get caught up in analysis paralysis. But by moving to discover and really landing on what am I learning about myself or my Kairos experience, what are my takeaways, that pushes us to a place of, hey, you know what? I'm gaining some insights. And what do we get to do with those insights? Now we get to move to the second half of the circle. That begins with making a plan. We need a concrete, in other words, actionable plan of how we're going to respond to this Kairos experience. Maybe that plan is to apologize to my wife for losing my crap and raising my voice the night before. Maybe my plan is because I'm realizing I'm gaining weight and I need to re-up my gym membership for the next 6 months. Whatever that plan is, it has to be actionable. Can I be accountable for that plan? The second quality of that plan, it has to be calendarized. I often tell people your calendar is like your financial budget of your time. In other words, if it's not in your calendar, it's not likely going to happen. We all say the same thing over and over. I need to do this. I got to get after that. I need to start this. If it doesn't get on our calendar, it's not likely going to happen. Once we have a plan, we move to the fifth step, which is we need partnership. Like, we are social creatures and we're not meant to do life alone. We need people in our life that are in our corner that we can share our plans with. That might be your significant other, a trusted friend, a colleague, coworker, a boss, to say, hey, I've had this Kairos experience. This is the plan I'm putting in place to respond. I'd love your partnership. And great partnership is marked by two qualities. One is support. We need partners who are going to support us, encourage us, maybe even help resource us in our venture. We also need partners who aren't afraid to hold our feet to the fire. Hey, you said you were going to do X, Y, or Z. Are you doing it? If not, why not? And what do we need to do about it? And then the last step in the Kairos circle is practice, right? And so I often think of the old Nike kind of, mantra, just do it, right? We got to get on and practice our plan, put it into practice, do it, execute, right? And then not just do it, but review it. Is my plan giving me the intended return on investment? Is me re-upping at the gym actually making a difference? Or do I need to recalibrate my plan and maybe hire a trainer? Or maybe I need to hire a meal service, or maybe I need to hire a personal chef. I know you're really interested in that with young kids, right? So we need to constantly practice our plans, but then review them to ensure that we have the right plan in place. If not, here's the good news. We can always recalibrate our plans to make sure that they're effective. And then here's the beautiful thing. I tell people, if you're leveraging the Kairos circle even half well for your Kairos moments, what the net effect on the other side is there's actually a trajectory shift.
Yep.
Which is why in the second book that we wrote through our company called Transform Your Trajectory, which is all about the Kairos circle tool, where we make absolutely clear that transformation is within reach for us, for our teams, for our organizations, if we know how to leverage this process, the Kairos circle, to process our experiences, to learn from them, and then to put plans in place that literally take us onto a new trajectory. And that's what leads to transformation.
Yeah. A couple things I love about this process, and I just want to draw out for our listeners, is so often in business, you are sent this message that you need to ignore or divorce your emotions. And we really want you to make your emotions a part of this process. Ignoring your emotions. Eric, you always say that we can't change what we can't see. And if we are ignoring our emotions, then we're not going to be able to address and change them. So dealing with our emotions as a point of data in this process is so helpful. And it's different than most people are taught how to navigate challenges, I would say.
That's right. And that just takes us back to one of our last sessions in the podcast where we were talking about emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is really about understanding what's happening internally, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Not because our emotions get to dictate and determine how we're going to respond, But again, because as human beings, we are integrated creatures.
Mm-hmm.
When we are impacted in any way, our emotions are impacted. Even if we're only really aware of the mental impact or the physical impact, as human beings, we are being impacted emotionally. And so rather than ignoring, right, or passing over it, I tell people, hey, listen, simply recognize your emotions, give those emotions some space to be there. And then you get to determine ultimately what you want to do and how you want to respond. Your emotions don't have to determine that for you. But if you don't own your emotions, that's usually when I see emotions taking over people.
100%. So a couple other things that I love about this process for leaders is that it takes something that feels a critical decision-making moment, or one of those Kairos moments that grabs our attention, often feels like it needs immediate response from us. Like it triggers us. Even those moments trigger us. But to say you can slow down and actually work a process that involves inviting other people to offer you feedback and assistance in this, and you don't have to get it right the first time. When you are drafting a plan, that means you're charting a course for how to move forward. But just like any good cartographer, once you're on the path that you're charting, if you need to make course corrections, you have the permission to do that. It's not just, I made this plan and by golly, I'm going to stick to it come hell or high water. Like, you get to course correct.
I love that. I love that. And one of the things that you and I have talked about quite often, Don, is that as human beings, because of our personality, our wiring, our life experiences, because of the pressures we're under, we're going to find that in our most ideal moments, when everything's going well, as human beings, we this is what we do. Like we didn't invent the principles or the steps of the Kairos circle. We simply took from the best in psychology and sociology to understand how do human beings process life experiences and respond in their best moments. Mm-hmm. The problem is we're not always in our best moments. We're often under incredible pressure and feel insecurities, fears, frustrations. We're under a time crunch, and that pressure can drive us to either over focus on one part of the circle or the other. So for those hesitators, they tend to get stuck in the first 3 steps of the circle, right? Observe, interpret, discover. Yeah. They get caught up in analysis paralysis. They get stuck in the fear of the outcome of their decisions. They're afraid to hurt other people's feelings. They're afraid to make a mistake or to be seen as a failure or to get it wrong. Yep. Or the quick fixers who skip the first part of the circle and jump straight to plan, and really just a plan and practice. They skip partnership because they want to get stuff done. Yep. And sometimes you'll even see in different industries, you'll see different industries lean toward one half of the circle or the other. The other challenge that we might face is sometimes we're tempted to skip steps, right? Maybe we don't lean toward one or the other, but we just skip steps. So for example, maybe we have a Kairos experience and we jump immediately to some conclusions. We make assumptions. We don't realize we're doing it, but we skipped the observation stage. We skipped really assessing what actually happened, what actually was said, right? Because we feel threatened. And so we immediately go into self-protective mode. We interpret the other party's tone of voice negatively, and boom, we're off to the races. That person hates me. They're being difficult or defensive, and I can't work with them. And so sometimes if we're not careful, we'll skip observation, or sometimes we'll skip the whole discovery process. We're in such a rush to respond to a situation that we don't take time to really ask the question, what am I learning about myself or my environment or the other people involved, to really mine out the best insights or wisdom. And so in doing that, we get in trouble. But here's what I tell people. The Kairos circle is not meant to teach people something they've never done before. It's actually to remind us of how to make sure that we're operating as the best version of ourselves, especially under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it would be helpful if we offered some real world examples that we've seen with clients recently. Do you want to jump in and go first? Because we each have a good one this week.
Ooh, why don't you start us off?
Okay. So just yesterday in a client meeting, I was dealing with a director who was having issues with a client perpetually gossiping and holding grudges. And I told her, I'm like, look, you are being invited to have a Kairos conversation with this employee, because at the beginning of the year, which at the time of this recording, we're only in March, so it hasn't been that far, this employee identified that they, as a goal, wanted to stop holding grudges for this year. And so I said, look, she gave you an invitation into this process with her. So all you have to do is invite her into a Kairos conversation where you're going to observe her behaviors recently, reflect her behaviors back to her and ask her for her observation about her behaviors, do some interpretation about how that might be impacting her goals of not holding grudges, how that might be impacting the people around her, the environment around her, and then to do some learning. But so that is a really important part of the process, just to bring that awareness. But then the second part is to say, okay, well, if this is a goal, right, we're moving towards this vision of you being the type of person that doesn't hold grudges, that is a contributing, helpful part of this team, then we need to create a plan. And what is that plan going to look like? Who would partner with you? I would like, as your director, to offer to partner with you in this, and we're going to create a plan so that we're going to work on nipping the gossip in the bud so that it doesn't contribute to you holding grudges. And to give a director the tool to be able to navigate a really difficult conversation. But as we always say, it's just another Kairos. It doesn't need to be lifted to this level of, okay, I need to sit this employee down and have this really scary conversation. You're just inviting them to process something with you.
Yeah.
And by making it a team project, you together as the director and the employee are really able to get to a much better outcome than, let's say, saving all of those things for a quarterly review where now you're kind of dropping the hammer on somebody.
Yeah. I want to highlight this for our listeners in light of what you're saying. The Kairos circle is actually the best coaching tool that I've ever run across. And like we talked about in previous sessions, our ability to lead others is predicated on our ability to lead ourselves. So we've been talking about the Kairos circle in its primary application of really self-coaching. How do I coach myself through my life experiences so that I can learn and respond in a way that allows me to intentionally bring the version of myself that I want to bring to the table? Now, the beautiful thing about this tool, like you just exemplified, is that we can use the same process of the Kairos circle to help people on our team, our loved ones, our friends, to process their Kairos moments. And we don't even need to share the tool with them if we don't want. We can just simply ask them the appropriate questions to help them process their Kairos moment in a way that gives them the best chance of gaining insights and takeaways so that they can respond more effectively. And then there are other applications for this tool that can be found in our book, Transform Your Trajectory, which is also on audio for our listeners. Because if they're listening to a podcast, they probably want to listen to an audiobook. Right. That's available to you. And of course, all of our visual images for this tool are available in the show notes. So please, 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 for our listeners, take advantage of those show notes. Because the illustrations really are so powerful because they help us not only remember the tool and the basic practices of the tool, but it's also what makes these tools transferable, right? We can actually share them with other people in our community. But I love that this tool helps us to become the best coaching leaders of ourselves and of others that we can possibly be.
Yeah.
Time for my example.
Yeah, let's hear your example.
Well, I mean, you and I know, Donna, like every single day in our coaching calls, we are helping clients identify and process their Kairos moments. That's the primary kind of function of our coaching calls, along with learning the other tools. I remember recently talking to, I say a young man because now I'm so old that it feels like everybody's younger than me. I'm at that stage now, right, where I'm talking about those young bucks, those youngins. I'm on a call with the CEO of an incredible tech company who really started the company with a bunch of his close friends. And the company has grown tremendously. And so at some point, we all know the old adage, what got us here will not get us there. We're going to have to make changes. Sometimes people are the right fit for our team or our company in this season, but they may not always be the best fit to help us in the next season. That's what this CEO was up against. But the challenge was, this is somebody who I've been working with for a decade. We've been friends longer than that. What am I going to do? I'm going to ruin this person's life if I let them go. And, I said, this is a powerful Kairos moment for two reasons. Number one, because as a CEO of a company, your job is always to make the best decisions for the best interest of the company. And you have to trust that what's in the best interest of the company is also in the best interest of the individuals.
Yes.
And what's in the best interest of the individuals is in the best interest of the company. Those are not mutually exclusive. That's a lie that we bought into, right? So I said, listen, if what's in the best interest of the company is to move on from this particular team member, that means that team member is probably no longer functioning in their sweet spot. They're no longer contributing in a way that's going to give them significance and purpose. And therefore, this is going to be a tough decision, but you want to make sure you're doing what's in the best interest of the company and the individual. He thought about it, processed it, worked through the intense emotions he was experiencing. And his discovery, his takeaway was simply, you know what? It's time. Here's exactly what he said to me. It's time for me to grow up. I love working with people that I'm friends with, but at some point, to build a business long-term, you're right. I have to make sure that I'm also making decisions for what's in the best interest of the company. And I said, great. What do you want to do about it? He said, I'm going to have a conversation with this individual. I'm going to let them know where we're at. And I'm going to give them an opportunity to kind of give some feedback. And that team member, once this CEO shared this kind of insight with this team member, the team member said, I have felt this for months.
Wow.
Felt like I was no longer really contributing to the future of the company. I feel like I've just kind of been maintaining what I was a part of building in the beginning. And I have not been feeling satisfied or fulfilled. An amazing experience.
Yeah.
They together decided on a transition plan, and it all went out so much smoother. Now, I can't guarantee the outcome of a conversation like that, but here's what I can guarantee, that when we process our Kairos moments, even half effectively, we will have renewed clarity and confidence and courage to make decisions and move in directions that may be difficult for us and for others, but that we can rest assured are in the best interest of all parties involved.
Yeah, it's amazing the difference that having that clarity, what level of confidence and courage it gives you when you have done the work to achieve that kind of clarity.
Yeah.
You're like, well, this isn't easy, but I know it needs to be done.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk practical strategies. What are some really simple, straightforward ways that our listeners could start to practice this in their life and their leadership?
I love this. Well, I'm going to sound like a broken record, and really this all ties together, where we started in one of our first sessions talking about getting triggered and hijacked, and how do we identify those moments? How do we increase our recovery rate? We talked about emotional intelligence being about the work of identifying when we get derailed and how do we recover our mental, emotional, and physical sobriety. And what we've recommended along the way is the incredible importance of journaling. And so I'm just going to say it again. We don't have to journal, but it's an incredible discipline for us as leaders to take time to slow down and to recognize, hey, what are the Kairos moments that I've been having? What are the moments in my day or my week that are most disrupting me for one reason or another? And what if I was to take some time to actually process this Kairos moment through the Kairos circle, through the 6 steps of observe, interpret, discover, plan, partner, and practice. And again, in the show notes, we have all the diagrams and illustrations to make that even simpler and easier for our listeners. But if we started practicing this, here's what happens. I've been doing this for 20 plus years. And basically, I have endless journals that are chock full of all of the incredible insights, learning, and wisdom that I have acquired by processing my Kairos moments over 2 decades. And people ask me all the time, like, Eric, where did you learn so much stuff in your life? You just seem to have such an incredible sense of a grasp on how humans work and how we're wrestling with our lives and how we can overcome challenges and how we can get the breakthroughs we're looking for. And I tell them, it's all the overflow of my journey of being committed myself to this process of identifying and processing Kairos moments. We can do this in our heads. We can do this in a conversation. We can also do this in a journal. And I tell leaders all the time, you'll never regret it. And any leader that I've worked with who has committed to the discipline of processing their Kairos moments in a journal have never regretted it. As a matter of fact, now they recommend it to everybody else. The second thing I would strongly recommend, and I already mentioned it, is, gosh, we need to find at least one or two people in our lives that we trust to partner us in processing our Kairos moments. Like, I'm so grateful that my wife knows the Kairos circle. So when I'm processing Kairos moments, she knows the process and she can help me be accountable for when I'm trying to skip steps or I'm trying to jump ahead to a plan or when I'm not really taking time to interpret or discover well. Obviously you, Dawn, our team, most of us know the Kairos circle. Even my clients at times will hold me accountable and say, Eric, I don't know, as you're talking about this Kairos, I think we're skipping a step here. I'm like, wow, thank you so much. So just having some trusted people in our life to help us process our Kairos moments goes such a long way toward helping us transform our trajectory and to continue the journey of becoming a better version of ourselves.
Absolutely. And just to reiterate the fact that, like the Hair Club for Men, we're not just this.
Was that it? Well, hold on. I don't know if our listeners can see me. This is, you're seeing me on YouTube or you're just listening to this, but I'm just telling you, why the Hair Club for Men comment, Don? You could have used a lot of other examples.
Because what did he always say? I'm not just the CEO, I'm also a client, right?
Okay. You got away with that one because for our viewers on YouTube, you can see I might be able to utilize that product.
The hairline is not what it used to be, but that's not what I was trying to point out. What I was going to say is that we recently had a large Kairos. We had a big mistake that happened on our team. And what did we do when we had our next team meeting? Yeah. We used the Kairos circle to walk through this thing that happened, that was a mistake that happened, and how we processed our feelings, the facts, we interpret it, and then we created plans. Like, we went it all the way around. Yeah. And it's such a helpful tool. We'll stop beating that dead horse. Oh my gosh. On that note though, yesterday in a call, a client used the phrase, beat them with a dead horse. And now I think I'm only going to say it that way.
Beat them with I don't think that's the normal saying.
I'm not going to beat
the dead horse.
But she said, I'm not going to beat them with a dead horse. And I was like, I prefer that.
And maybe in favor of our animal lovers out there, we just won't use that phrase at all because I don't know that we need to be beating any dead animal.
That's fair. Anyways, we are big fans of the Kairos circle. And as Eric said, the tool will be in the show notes. So get down in there and print that tool out. And we challenge you, walk a challenge through the circle this week. And while you're down there, in the show notes, we also invite you to download our mini course, 5 Shifts to Become the Leader That You Wish You Had. It's a great material. Sign up for it and you get 1 short email every day for 5 days. And then go ahead and subscribe because you don't want to miss out on the rest of the tools that we'll be laying out over the coming episodes. And we're so grateful that you've been here with us.
Yeah. Toodaloo.
Have a great rest of your day. Bye. Okay. End recording.
End recording.